Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're watching me from. My name is Dr. Obioramba Iboweze, reaching you from Nkolo Mahadum, Wisdom University. Today's date is Eke Market Day in the lunar calendar, in the Igbo lunar calendar. While in the Roman Catholic calendar, today is June the 3rd, 2024. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms. And also like our programs and comment so that we know how you are feeling. Again, thank you for joining me. The title of our program today is that there's no oxygen above the cloud. There's no oxygen and no life above the cloud. You guys know that the cloud we see up there, when we look up there and see the cloud, is a concentration of smoke and tiny water and other things that form those clouds. And for we human beings, in fact, all living things on earth, we all depend on oxygen for survival. All animals on earth depend on oxygen for survival. While we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, the plants, the trees and plants you see, they use the carbon dioxide and then in turn produce oxygen for us. Also, there's a lot of oxygen at the sea, at the oceans. There's a lot of oxygen there too. So what we are trying to present to you today is to tell you is that the further you go up, the more you go up the cloud, up the sky, there's less amount of oxygen. And human beings cannot survive above the sky. The higher you go, the less oxygen you see. That's what we want to present to you today. And so when some of us are climbing the mountain, you know that anytime you see a mountain climber with oxygen, it means they are climbing higher than there is enough oxygen to sustain his or her life. Also, when we are entering the airplane, you know, anytime you're entering the airplane and they are demonstrating to you how to use the oxygen if anything happens, that tells you that at that height where the airplane is flying, there's no oxygen there. So they're telling you that if anything happens, please use that oxygen the way they were, or they are demonstrating it to you in the airplane. And also you should know that anytime you enter the airplane, that they are giving you oxygen. You are breathing oxygen. As long as you are in the airplane, they are giving you oxygen in the plane. Because when the plane takes off, there's no oxygen enough to sustain human life above the space. The higher you go, the lesser you have oxygen. The windier it becomes, and the colder too. And so there's no life, there's no animals living above the sky. So if anybody tells you that there's somebody living in the sky up there, that's a lie. There's nobody living up the sky. There's no living thing, because all living thing depends on oxygen. And where you have high concentration of oxygen is at sea levels. That is below the ground, where we all move around. The higher you go, there's chances you may not have enough oxygen to survive. And they have told us that the oxygen itself goes down as you climb up. That's what we want to let you to know in this lecture today, that the higher you go, you have less oxygen upwards. And those who are climbing the mountains have classified altitude, how you go and you lose oxygen, in 3 ways. That's one they classify as high altitude. That is between 1,005 and 3,000 meters, which is equals to 4,900 feet to 11,500 feet. That is called high altitude. The second classification is very high altitude. That very high altitude is between 3,500 to 5,000 meters, which equals to 11,000 to 18,000 feet. The third and last classification of altitude is extreme altitude. Extreme altitude is anything above 5,000 meters, and which is also equal to 18,000 feet. This is how the altitude, the higher you go, how they classify the up as you go from ground up. And as you go from ground up, you have lesser and lesser amount of oxygen. Before we continue, we are begging you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, like our programs, comment so that we know how you're feeling, so that we can also know how we are doing as a feedback. So thank you for joining me. What we want you to take away from today's lecture is that the higher you go from the ground is what they call sea level, from the sea, but they call it sea level. But to make it easier, the higher you go from where you are on the ground upwards, you have lesser and lesser amount of oxygen to sustain life. That is what we want you to know. So when anybody is telling you that there's somebody or anybody that live up there in the sky watching over you, that's a lie. Because even the space station that the Europeans, took up there, the space station was built with oxygen and everything and then sent over there so it can be habitable for humans. If not, nobody can survive without oxygen up those altitudes which astronauts go to. And that is the point we want to drop to you at Nkolo Mahadum. Again, before we end, we are begging you, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And like our program. Comment so that we know how we are doing. Now, another information we want to drop to you is that even the clouds you see, those clouds you see, they also have 3 classifications. The one they call low cloud is between 2,000 meters, which equals to 6,500 feet. And middle cloud. The middle cloud is between 2,000 meters and 6,000 meters, which is equal to 16,500 feet and 20,000 feet. And then high cloud. High cloud is the one that is from 6,000 meters, which is approximately more than 20,000 feet. Anything above 20,000 feet is called high clouds. So that's why anytime if you have entered an airplane, you see the shakings you get each time the plane is trying to penetrate the clouds, those clouds, in order to get above it, because the cloud is thick in itself. It has accumulated for so long. Those smokes, those tiny particles of water have accumulated for so long. And as much as we emit smokes and pollutions from vehicles, from cooking, from refineries and other human activities, so will the thickness of that cloud continues to build up. If not for the smokes we make on Earth, if not for all the emissions we produce on Earth, we can see the space from the ground. But because from human living, we do produce a lot of pollutions. It is those pollutions that is hanging up there that we see as the cloud. And whenever the airplane crosses the cloud and goes up, you will see a very open space, very, very open space. It is on that space that the plane flies from one country to the other. You know, very, very, very interesting. So this is what we want to present to you today. The takeaway from today's lecture is for you to know that we have high concentration of oxygen here on the ground. The higher you go, the oxygen pressure reduces. And when the oxygen pressure reduces, human beings cannot survive at higher altitudes without oxygen. And there's nobody, there's no spirit, there's no human being that live higher in the higher altitudes. No human life can live there. Even if it's a spirit that is connected with life, it cannot survive up there in the higher altitudes. So anybody telling you there's anybody living up there in the sky, that's a lie. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. Every life ends here on the ground. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. We told you that at Nkolo Mahadum, we're going to be making it short so that we drop it for you. You assimilate it, and then you take action. You understand your environment so that nobody will deceive you with this or that. You can also do your own research. And that's why we are giving you this lecture this morning. Again, my name is Obiora Mba, but we'll not end it without asking you to please support the Eastern Security Network. They are the security outfit that is protecting our forests, our farmlands, and our bushes, so that our people can go to farm, because if not, the Fulani herdsmen, terrorists will occupy those forests and continue to kill our people, and hunger will be in our land. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day. Again, my name is Obiora Mba Igboeze. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.